I love Mondays with Mike Heller.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed bunker in the Badger State. This is I Love Mondays with Mike Heller. Powered by determination and a little bit of duct tape. Here's your host, Mike Heller.
Okay, so here we go. Welcome in. We get closer. The NCAA tournament begins today. There are two games tonight in Dayton. It used to be that I didn't consider these tournament games, but when they went to a pair of 11s in the matchup and a pair of 16s, you get it because it does count. I mean, those 11s, that team is seated higher than who Wisconsin will play when they open the NCAA tournament on Thursday. Welcome into a Super Fan Tuesday. I'm your host, Mike Heller. The show is called I Love Mondays, but we do this thing for an hour every day. Those of you watching on X and YouTube, you know that we go live at 10 a.m. For the rest of you, check out the live if you have a chance. Otherwise, you're seeing it wherever you see your podcasts or hear your podcasts. Like James, good morning, good Tuesday. He says, hi, James. How do you? Hope everybody is doing well. This is, I think, in the United States, I believe I'm in the minority that has been deep into the World Baseball Classic. And so I can't wait for tonight with the U.S. and Venezuela. The U.S. has only won the World Baseball Classic once. Venezuela has never been in the championship game. Tonight you'll see, I don't know if William Contreras will start. I think he will, but I don't know. Jackson Chourio will start for Venezuela. Angel Zerpa pitched in the game last night. 2/3 of an inning, gave up a hit, a walk, but had 2 strikeouts and had a big moment getting out of a jam that he kind of put himself into. He's a Brewers player. And then Andrew Fisher was eliminated last night for Team Italy. And what a story they were throughout this entire run. And then tonight you get Bryce Terang. He will bat ninth, almost certainly, and play second base for Team USA. One of the storylines here, you know, for the most important game, and Venezuela treats it this way, a lot of the rest of the world does, and I believe the USA players do, but understand this part of the World Baseball Classic, as at least the way I look at it. You get Nolan McLean, who's going to essentially start Game 7 of the World Series if you hold on that the WBC has this level of oomph to it. He's got 8 career Major League Baseball starts. New York Mets pitcher. And that's the way it is. And Mason Miller, who is the lights out closer, he's pitched 4 times in 8 days. So I don't know that he's available. There is an availability question on this. It's why Tarek Skubal only pitched 1 time. So I know a lot of people, and certainly Venezuela views this. I mean, their players have said this would be a greater accomplishment than the World Series. I think some USA players say that. I don't think they believe it. Now, who am I to say what they believe? I don't believe it. From an American fan standpoint, it doesn't have that to it, but I'm pretty damn excited about it. I think it's going to be fun to watch that. And, oh, by the way, from a Brewers standpoint, you pay attention to these things. They're 10-12 in spring training. They have 6 games left in Arizona. Next Monday, 6 days from now, the Brewers will play at American Family Field. Monday and Tuesday of next week, exhibition games against Cincinnati. Then they'll have Wednesday as a final day to prep. And Thursday, so 9 days from now, the Milwaukee Brewers will open Major League Baseball season at American Family Field in Milwaukee against the Chicago White Sox. What else is new today? I didn't do an update on this yesterday, and there's a reason. Because almost literally, and I say that almost literally nobody cares. But the Bucks are 28-39. Their magic elimination number to be eliminated from the play-in little tournament deal, that magic number is 5. No, I'm sorry, it is 10. Magic elimination number is 10. They trail Charlotte by 5 1/2 games. The Bucks are home against Cleveland tonight at Fiserv, then a 4-game West Coast swing, Utah, Phoenix, the Clippers, and Portland. So the Bucks, in theory, could be eliminated before they return home. And remember when they were trying to catch Atlanta? And when Atlanta was the next nearest team that they could chase down? Atlanta's won 10 in a row. And again, part of this is who cares? And I mention it, and I don't care. So that's kind of goofy. Badger basketball, 24-10. They are in the NCAA tournament. Here's a little bit of a breakdown. They're playing High Point out of the Big South. High Point, North Carolina. They're 30-4. Longest winning streak right now in the country at 14. Last loss was January 14th, so it's more than 2 months ago. They didn't play a single quad 1 game this year. They are 0-2 against quad 2 schools. Just to give you a little refresher, or maybe it's not even a refresher. Maybe you never knew what goes in, what defines a quad 2 win. Want to know what defines a quad 2 win? Home team against a top 30 would be a quad 1. And I had it and that went away from me, but it's not a high bar to get a quad 2 game or a quad 2 win. So that High Point, and everybody's saying High Point's a good team, and I'm not denying that. I'm just saying they haven't played anybody. Nobody. Their highest net ranking win. So net rankings is what the committee goes to when they're helping themselves to seed it. It's the one that they go to. By the way, quad 1 win are home games against teams RPI rank 1 through 30, neutral site 1 through 50, and away 1 through 75. So they didn't play a single game that would qualify as that. Quadrant 2, home game against a team ranked in the RPI 31st through 75th, neutral site 51 through 100, and away victories over somebody that would be in the top 135. High Point doesn't have any of those. The reason I bring it up, and I'm not trying to deny that they're a good team. I'm just saying they're a good team against who they've played. Here's the history on 12 seeds in the NCAA tournament. First round, 12s over 5s. Happens, if you want to do the math, that happens 35% of the time. 35% of the tournaments have a 12 over a 5. So if you had 100 tournaments, that's the amount of times it's going to happen. About 35. So give them a 35% chance. That's where I've seen some of the metrics come down on this. I did a poll question yesterday that I'll give you the results now. How far will Wisconsin go in this tournament? How far will they go? This is what you guys voted yesterday and through this morning. First round out, 2% of you. Now, I think the country in the full brackets will probably pick High Point. Maybe 20 to 25% of the brackets will pick High Point. Clark Kellogg didn't help that. Second round, for those in our poll question. Second round out, you voted 34% of you that Wisconsin would lose in the second round. That would either be against Arkansas, likely, or Hawaii, possibly. A Sweet 16 out, which if it were to go chalk, it would be against Arizona. That's where 51% of you have Wisconsin exiting the tournament. I think that would be a win if you get to the second weekend. It hasn't happened in a decade. And then Elite 8 or Final Four, 13% of you are eternal optimists, or certainly optimistic on that front of the equation, and I think that's a good thing. Let me spend a moment to tell you about our sponsors. I love our sponsors. They have I'm very appreciative of their support of me and this show, and I appreciate and urge you to support them. So I Love Mondays is presented by Neuroscience Group, excellence in brain, spine, and pain care. You can choose Neuroscience Group in Northeast Wisconsin. You can choose them anywhere. In sports, you trust the right team, and for your health, it's no different. Neuroscience Group, neurology, neurosurgery, pain management, and therapy all under one roof. Advanced care close to home. Neuroscience Group, Northeast Wisconsin's leader in neurological care. I Love Mondays is presented by M3 Insurance, where they help businesses and individuals manage risk, purchase insurance, and provide the right benefits to their employees, leveraging digital product and program solutions to protect and serve clients across the country. They equip you with tools and guides you need to confidently navigate insurance and risk management decisions. So if that's part of your role in a company you're part of or that you own, reach out to our friends at M3 Insurance. That's m3ins.com. Potawatomi Sportsbook, they are a sponsor of I Love Mondays. At Potawatomi Casino Hotel, it's time to play. Pick your game, slots, poker, best sportsbook anywhere. And I don't know how many of you have been, but if you're in a sportsbook on Thursday from about 10 o'clock in the morning, game started at 11:10, but from about 10 o'clock in the morning, if you want to stay there till about 11:30 at night, it's going to be a hell of a day. A hell of a day. I mean, that place is buzzing the entire time. Head to Potawatomi Sportsbook in Milwaukee for an unmatched sports betting experience. It's got everything you need all day, every day to bet above the rest. And I Love Mondays is also brought to you by Habish, and Rotier. Our 13 locations ensure you get a hometown attorney who understands your life and the impacts of your injury and is personally committed to your recovery. So that's what we got going on today. All right, it is Superfan Tuesday. When we initiated Superfan Tuesday, it was with a guy named, what was his name? I don't know. Courtney, do you recall when we instituted Superfan Tuesday, who that guy was when we started? Do you remember?
Yeah, JV.
Wow.
Who? JV.
Oh, JV. He's on, and he's on the JV now. Treadmill Boys, what I call him, but Jeff Bilker, he opened, and then I don't know what I mean. I know what happened, but it doesn't mean that everybody else does.
Right. Maybe Jeff will be back. I don't know. I thought last week, I don't think any of us should be too comfortable in our seats. I thought last week went really well, but then this week, you were really adamant that I didn't join you back in studio.
Is that right? Is that how that went?
Well, that's how it felt.
Is that how it felt?
Yeah. Well, here I am, and so I'm just I assume that's just you trying to keep us all on our toes, letting us know that nobody's seat is guaranteed, or maybe you found some things missing around the house. It wasn't. Who knows? But either way,
okay.
Maybe JV will be back. Maybe he won't be, but I'm enjoying the seat as long as I can sit in it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and look at that professional background.
I know.
Thank you. Give us a little tour. What's all back there? You got.
What isn't back there? I won't bore you with everything. Signed Peyton Manning helmet. Signed Favre helmet.
Yeah.
If you're a real nerd like me, that is grass from the '96 NFC Championship game at Lambeau.
Okay.
There's actually grass in that box.
Oh, there's grass in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to see it. It's pretty ugly these days. It's a 30-year-old hunk of sod in a box.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of fun stuff up there. My son's over here playing some hockey. The coolest thing in the office you can't see, I have autographed pucks up here from every member of the '80 Olympic team. So that's the fun
Oh, is
one.
that right?
Yeah. Yep. I have an autographed puck from every member of the '80 team and Jim Craig's goalie stick. So, yeah.
What do you mean his goalie stick?
Well, a replica. So I met Jim. It's funny. I met Jim at he does a lot of motivational speaking.
Yeah.
I met him at a conference, and I said, "Hey, man, if I shipped you a wood Sherwood goalie stick, I'd pay you, but would you autograph it?" He said, "Oh, you don't have to pay me. He gave me his address. Super nice guy. Said, ship it to me. I'll sign it and I'll ship it back." And he did, and it looks great. I will tell you this. I don't regret it. I did not realize how much money it was going to cost to ship a goalie stick round trip. As it turns out.
All these years later, that $70 doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, believe me. I like I said, I would do it over and over and over again. But it's funny when I'm like, "Oh, I'll sign it for free." And then I remember leaving the UPS store thinking, not exactly free. So anyhow, lots of fun stuff in here. I do, if it ever pans out, and then we quit talking memorabilia, I do have my newly autographed Mason Posa, Cooper Catalano football.
There you go.
I told you will 20 years from now either be one of my favorite pieces of Wisconsin football sports memorabilia, or we'll just play with it out in the backyard. Because no offense to those guys, I think they're awesome, but you never know what ahead is. So, here we go.
Hey, let's jump into a little bit of the NCAA tournament conversation because Wisconsin fell in on a 5-seed line. I think when we visited last week, we felt that they were probably a 6, could move to a 5 if they won twice at the Big Ten tournament, which they did. I didn't think the 4 line was ever in play, but a move up the 5 line might have been in play had they beaten Michigan. And I know the committee says they paid attention to Sunday's championship games, but that would be the first time that they ever did. So I wasn't sure if Sunday mattered. In my history, experience tells me that it wouldn't have. But if they'd have won on Saturday against Michigan and certainly had a chance to do that, I think they would have just moved up on the 5 seed line and wouldn't have had, because they're the last of the 5s, which meant that they got the snake. They get the better of the 12s, and then they would get the better of the 4s. As they roll forward. What was your reaction on the seed line? And as you've looked at their path going out to Portland in the West region, what's your reaction?
So a couple things, exactly you and I talked about last week. I do think the move to the 5 line was warranted. Let's be honest. I mean, the run they went on, and then you lose. Look, thought the Michigan game in some ways, I'm never 100% sold, Mike, if I'm one of those people that says a loss is good. That said, if you're of that mindset, to play Michigan essentially the way they did, to come back, play them down to the wire, lose on a last second shot. I mean, to lose, in a game where really you feel like you could win, especially if you had no winner, you had all your horses, I think is almost kind of best case scenario. If you believe losing at the end is okay, gets them an extra day of rest. So I think it was warranted. Again, when you look at really what they did down the stretch, right? You beating Illinois a couple of times there and away, beating Michigan State, all the things they did in between. And even quite candidly, if you take into account the little bit of a letdown toward the end of the Washington game, but definitely think it was warranted. As far as the seed line goes, I'll tell you, I'm with you. I don't want to discount High Point, but I'm not concerned about them. I will tell you, it does feel like, and I know Wisconsin fans have been complaining about this for years, it always feels like we get the worst possible game draw for the options we're given, meaning like, okay, so High Point, we don't know much, but I think based on some of the numbers you shared, not super concerning, but get to go as far as possible from Madison and play first thing Thursday morning is the hand Wisconsin has dealt, headed out to Portland. So, I think give and take there. The only thing I would say is I did see this morning, and I don't know if we're supposed to credit people, but I sent you a link to it. I did see a post on X this morning, somebody named Jay Kuda. Now, Jay, it says in his profile, is a Michigan State grad, so take his knowledge with a grain of salt. But he shared a spreadsheet listing the top 6 seeds, who they play, and then each team they play is Ken Pom rating. And he actually gives Wisconsin the easiest path to the Sweet 16 of all of the number 5 seeds.
All right, Court, live podcast here. I'm going to have you keep talking, and I'm going to walk off camera for a second to plug in a camera that just showed me it had a low battery. So
okay. So I'm running the show.
Think of words and say them while I walk off camera. Okay?
Yeah, happy to do it. So as we're talking about that piece of the NCAA tournament, so if you want to follow it again on X, and I'll put it actually up in the chat on YouTube when I get a second, but Jay Kuda's the post. So Jay went through and took seeds 1 through 6, who your likely opponent would be in each round, put in their Ken Pom numbers. What he comes up with is Wisconsin's average Ken Pom in the 4 rounds are 53.5, 36.3, 29.3. He actually gives Texas Tech and Vandy as the hardest 5 seed paths to get to the Final Four. Interestingly, on the ones, he gives Florida the easiest path, Michigan the hardest path, and Duke and Arizona in the middle. So it is interesting. Obviously, Ken Pom ratings don't mean everything, but doesn't necessarily align with how you would believe the NCAA committee seeding would go. You would assume, to your point, with us being the last 5 seed in, we would have gotten the hardest path through, to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and Final Four. So just kind of interesting food for thought there. The only other thing I would say, you got your camera squared away, it looks like.
Yeah.
So I got a 2-way conversation again, which is great. But the only other thing I would say about this is, and I said when we were on last week, the only thing I worry about with this team, and we've all seen it, is, and I think I said on the show last week, I'm not so sure I wouldn't rather be a 6 than a 5. I do feel like we've seen this team.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I understand some of the math of wanting to be a 6. I get it. Here's the deal. Yep. And I said this yesterday. I had Brian Butch on yesterday morning. I understand the concern of a 12 over a 5. The 12 over a 5. I mean, it has happened in 17 different tournaments going back. In a single year, it's happened 17 different times. In 13, 14, 19, 3 number 12s won their opening games. Okay? So, yes, it happens. To that point, 2024 saw 2 12 seeds win. They were Grand Canyon and James Madison. Everybody remember the James Madison? So the point of all of this is when you're here, Maryland, Baltimore County will remind you that even a 16 can beat a 1. All right. And then it happened to Purdue as well. So you can get beat. In this scenario, when we're playing now, it can happen. This is not a guaranteed Wisconsin win. I think a guard said it, and I think his players reflected it in their press conference. You have to play 40 minutes of really good basketball in order to get another 40. Bo said it. We earned 40 more minutes. He would say it all the time. We earned another game. That's what the tournament is about. You don't advance by not earning it. So Wisconsin's going to have to earn it against High Point, who, again, hadn't played great competition, but they play at a faster pace than Wisconsin. They score 90 points a game. And when I say faster pace, I just mean more possessions. Wisconsin outscores them probably against similar competition, but High Point averages 90 points per game. Some of that's buoyed by some really big numbers, but they're faster. They play quicker. They do not want to wait in their offensive set. They shoot before 20 seconds on the shot clock more often than not. That being said, I think Wisconsin will win on Thursday, but we'll find out when they play it. I like them against Arkansas with one exception. The best player on the court will be on the Razorbacks. He will likely be the best player on the court against every team that they play in the tournament, certainly against Hawaii, and yes, against Wisconsin if they advance. That is always a bit concerning because Wisconsin, although they have been better lately, Courtney, defensively, they do not have, there's your lockdown defender. You're gonna take him and you're gonna lock him down. Yep. Max Klesmit was sort of that guy a year ago. They don't have that guy today.
No, I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. To me, your point, I mean, look, we all know the Achilles heel of this team is defense. Let's face it, even in games where they score a lot of points, they don't tend to blow a lot of people out. The Michigan State game kind of being the anomaly there where it was kind of an end-to-end. I was very happy to be present for that. So there's definitely concern there. I think the other thing you have when you in these 5-12 matchups, Mike, and look, I'm not breaking ground on this take, but let's just be honest. A lot of 12 seeds are conference champs, conference tournament champions from smaller leagues, right? So let's just be honest. Most of us don't know a lot about them. You mentioned their quad 1 and quad 2 wins. Well, how many quad 1 and quad 2 games do they even get, right? So we don't really know if they can compete at that level because they don't get a lot of opportunities to compete at that level. But the thing we do know about those types of teams is they are used to winning. When people talk about like Miami of Ohio not getting in, and I understand very similar to High Point, right? No quad 1 wins. People look at the schedule. All I can think to myself is, you went 30-0, and then you lost 1 game to start your conference tournament. You're telling me, let me tell you something. That I don't care who you are and who you play. You won 30 straight basketball games. Like you're good. You can see it. I mean, look at again. We think our Badgers are really good. You go out to Oregon and lose. Miami of Ohio didn't go play somebody that they should have beaten easily and lost because their record shows they won 30 straight games. So, point being, to your point, you get 40 more minutes. They'll have to play well in those 40 more minutes. I think the pace should be concerning to Wisconsin fans a little bit because defensively we don't play great defense. At the end of the day, I think it's highly unlikely High Point can guard what Wisconsin does offensively. I'd be curious, have you seen for your friends at Potawatomi, have you seen an over-under on this game?
Yeah, they won't do it. They don't give numbers on in-state college games. So Marquette never has a line at Potawatomi, and Wisconsin never has a line. But I think the original line was 12 on the game, and it has moved down. At least initially, it moved down to 9. So,
And do they give an over-under? Because this game feels like an over-under closing in on like 190 something.
Yeah, let's see what first off, what 164.5 is what ESPN bet.
Is the over-under? God, that feels like
Wisconsin
easy.
is a 10.5 point favorite.
Yeah.
And the over-under line is 164.5. Now, all of our lines come from Potawatomi, but I just explained they don't give lines on in-state schools.
Just curious.
Line. Yeah.
With how High Point plays offense and how we play defense and how we play offense against them, man, 164, that feels like even money. I may have to hop off of this and go.
Well, I mean, here's where I would caution you and try and save you a shekel or two, and that is High Point has not played a team that plays defense. Okay, so I go back, and I did this a little bit yesterday, but if I go back on High Point season, let's go back to their games that they've lost. Now, you got to go a long way back. You got to go back to a game during the season against Winthrop, and then nothing since January 14th. That's their last loss. When they lost to UAB, they scored 74 points. All right, they got beat 94-71 to UAB. They lost another game to Southern Illinois. They got beat 86-84, so certainly higher scoring. When they lost to Winthrop, or they lost to App State, 86-78, and when they lost to Winthrop during their conference season, 92-75. All right? So they have then had some huge scoring games in their season. They scored 95 against USC Upstate. Remember that? I mean, you almost went there. To USC Upstate. They scored 112 against Gardner Webb.
Yeah.
Right?
129 against Mary Baldwin. That's where did you go to Mary Baldwin?
Well, she was I almost went on a date with Mary, but she had a boyfriend and is somebody I knew. So
I thought that was inappropriate. Their schedule, since you brought it up, Mike, and I don't know half the teams.
No, I had to look up High Point. Now, we know there's a steakhouse southwest of Madison, but that wasn't it. So I had to look up, and I figured, if all else fails, you see a team name you don't know, just say North Carolina. Because North Carolina is filled with a bunch of small colleges that play D1 college hoop.
Yep. No, absolutely agree.
There's that. But and then let's enter into this conversation / debate. If you graded Wisconsin's season right now, and if you were just a professor, you can go pluses and minuses. You had to give a letter grade to Wisconsin's season right now. If we don't play another game, what's their grade, Courtney?
So I'm taking the season in totality.
Yep, everything from like if this were a college class and they haven't taken the final exam yet, because the final exam is the NCAA tournament. So you know where I'm going to go with this. How much do you put on the final exams? Now, some professors will say, hey, your final exam is 50% of your grade. Now, I don't know what the equation is here. There are some fans that make the final exam, in other words, after Selection Sunday, 80% of your grade. It's the only thing that matters. It's like the playoffs in the NFL. If you're going to grade the Packers, some people say, well, I only grade them on what they do in the playoffs. The regular season doesn't matter. And if they don't make the playoffs, it's an F. But if they make the playoffs and they lose, the best grade they can get is a D.
Sure.
So if you want to do it right now, what would you have?
So if I had to do it right now, I'd give them a B+.
Okay.
I'd say this about it, to kind of continue your analogy. I would say in their big presentations, their big reports, the book reports, whatever the big projects were, I'd give them A's. I think on overall class participation, I'd probably give them a C. Only because we had some games early in the season, and then the Oregon game, we had some
we
games
got hammered.
We just didn't show up, right? We didn't participate in some of those games. So I'd be hard pressed to give this team an A. I would tell you if this was a whole semester, I was breaking it into quarters, I'd give them an A in the second quarter. I'd give them an A in the second half.
Yeah.
I will say this about it. If you had told me that this team would log the wins it logged after I sat and watched that game for the first handful of home games, I would tell you no shot.
Yeah.
Like literally no shot. So the growth has been amazing. But like I said, I think B+, A on the big projects, see on overall participation.
Okay. Now give me your. Okay. So I'll start here.
Yep.
My philosophy on grading an entire season. So if we did this at any point after Wisconsin is out of the tournament, or if they are never out of the tournament and they cut down the nets, when it's all done, my philosophy on grading a college basketball program is slightly different because I will grade on a curve. If I'm grading Duke, it almost exclusively happens after Selection Sunday. If I'm grading, historically, Kentucky, it's almost exclusively after Selection Sunday. If I'm grading the current version of Arizona, it is what happens moving forward.
Sure.
Because their season has been an A. At Duke, their season has been an A. But I think the standards there, you're in the Ivy League, the standards are going to be a little bit different. And there are elite programs, of which Wisconsin is in college hoop. My view of it is they're not elite. They're a step below, which is fantastic. I wouldn't call the step below fantastic. I think the program is great. Above good, but not elite. I think it's either very good or lower great. So I grade them a little bit differently. The regular season matters because it's not a foregone conclusion like it is at Duke, because they spend more money than anybody, except for BYU, apparently. But Duke outspends, like when they got Con Knippel. I don't know what Con got there, but he got a lot. And he wasn't the highest paid. He would have been the highest paid at Wisconsin by a long shot. Cooper Flagg was the highest. Boozer's not free there. Like, I would go all the way back. Duke's played in this realm for a very, very long time, not just since we went to NIL. Duke has paid for play. I don't have evidence of it, but I'm convinced of it. Okay. So when I look at Duke, I'm going to grade them differently. Kentucky, I would grade them differently, but they kind of suck right now. Arizona, I would grade them differently. Right now, if I'm a Michigan fan, my season-long grade is based on what happens next. If I were going to be fair about it, Courtney, if I would go back to 15 and 16, 14 and 15 for Wisconsin, the back-to-back Final Fours, it was going to be graded on what they did after Selection Sunday. This team, I'm going to give 65 to 70% of the grade has already been determined. So I'm going to give them, pretty similar to you, I'm going to give them a B+. However, the only way that grade could come down below a B- is if they lost on Thursday. If they win on Thursday, they're going to be assured of a letter B to start their grade. If they compete and, Arkansas with Acuff Jr., he's extraordinary. If you haven't watched him play, dude is ridiculous. If Wisconsin got in a shootout with Arkansas and Coach Cal and they win and advance to the Sweet 16, this team's going to get a letter grade when it's all said and done that begins with an A. If they lose to Arkansas, they would be on the B line. So I'm going 65 to 70% of this team this year's grade is already in the books. And the rest of it is you just can't lose Thursday. Is that a fair way? Would we be sort of close on how we view that?
I think so. And you said a lot of things there to unpack. Let me just say one thing, and then I'm going to hit on the Badger thing. The thing you said about Duke, if you haven't gone, if people out there haven't gone, and my buddy Dave Miller, am I allowed to say Dave's nickname on air?
Oh yeah, Sweet Bitch.
Sweet Bitch, yeah, that's our boy Sweet Bitch. It's great. So if people don't know, and Mike knows this better than I do, way back, how long ago?
Oh,
Mike?
It's 1996. Because I was doing a little bit of radio, late 90s. I was doing a little bit of radio then and working with Sweet Bitch at University Ridge. So he just sent in, for those who are listening, not watching, he sent in a note that says, what does any of this have to do with Chuck Cecil? Yeah, Chuck Cecil, between Joel Sarbacher and Dave Miller, sweet bitch. Chuck Cecil was a constant. Like, they would call in on any show that I was going to be on. They would call in and ask about Chuck Cecil. Anyway, back to your point.
Anyhow, yes. And so, Dave, thanks for that. I played a little golf with Dave yesterday. Dave and I played 18 at Pebble. It was lovely.
Oh, there you go.
We don't know what my strokes gained putting on the sim were.
Right.
But somewhere close to 18. It was crazy. Anyhow, I was just going to say, for what you mentioned, if people haven't gone and done some reading on the Duke NIL collective and how Duke has made this transition NIL and the boosters that are involved, totally go out, Google it, read about it. It's really interesting stuff. The big money guys around Duke started their own collective outside of the university. They actually don't interact with the university. They make the offers themselves. They literally do it through the coaching. Like, it really is fascinating stuff how they've chosen kind of to blaze their own path just for Duke men's basketball. So if you haven't read it, and
I'm just gonna interject, and this is unfair, but I'm just gonna interject, but then hold your spot. It's why I think it's total bullshit that there is not transparency in college athletics. Total bullshit. Like, when we're trying to compare how your program stacks up with another, money matters. And there are others, like people I love in this business. Bill Schmidt, who I have incredible respect and love for, who I've worked with. But he and I differ on this, and I'm never going to understand his point of view. Money matters. It matters in everything. It matters in all of our pro sports. Why do we pay attention to what the Dodgers are paying and the Mets are paying and what the Brewers are paying? And why do we know that there's a cap and a floor in the NBA and the NHL and the National Football League? But in college, no, we don't get to know. Well, screw you. That, to me, that's bullshit. And I haven't read the Duke stuff, but I know it by proxy what they're spending. So go back to your place in line. Go ahead.
I will. And to your point, I mean, it's a bunch of hedge fund guys, a bunch of guys with a pile of money, and they're out there playing. They're out there essentially playing fantasy high school, college basketball. So
right.
I totally agree with you on the transparency. I'll also just say this. You and I are in lockstep on the money does matter. I think the debate with people on that is how much does it matter from the standpoint of this. I mean, I use the baseball. I'm not a big baseball guy, Mike. I use the baseball thing all the time. Dodgers win World Series. Yeah. How'd the Mets do with all the money they spent?
Correct. You better have great leadership and great coaching and money. Yeah. Because you can win without money. I would guess, and again, the lack of transparency pisses me off, but I would guess that Wisconsin is 1/4 of the basketball player budget, 1/4 at best, compared to BYU and Duke, the ones who I trust are at the high level of college basketball from a money standpoint. I put Michigan into that realm too. But again, we don't know. But I would say it's got to be close to 4-1, maybe more.
It's funny. You see all these articles, out there, Mike, and I don't know where people compile the data, right? But I saw a thing that actually Kentucky's the highest spending team in the country this year, then Duke, then Michigan. And I think they had us in the mid-20s at like 8 or 9 million. I will say this, and again, it's all hearsay. It is my understanding, I think a lot of people's understanding, that there was a bit of a bidding war for Nick Boyd, and they were committed to Nick Boyd. Yeah. And it's my understanding, and I don't know if you said this to somebody else, that drove the number up for John Blackwell, which, hey, I don't blame JB at all if that's what happened. Like, hey, if this guy's just showing up and he's getting the X, and I'm coming back and I've been your guy. Like,
JB's a little interesting now, isn't he? Because I don't think he's NBA guy. Like, I don't think JB is an NBA guy. I know he went into the draft process last year to get a gauge of where he was. Yeah. I don't think he's going to the league. I think he's playing college hoop again next year. Yep. And I know there's a ton of loyalty in the family and the concept of it. Mm-hmm. But there's negotiation going on as to what John Blackwell is getting paid next year. I know I've diverted I've kind of taken this on a different path.
Go back there, but I have to say, because now you're on this point, I got to say, I agree with you. I love John Blackwell, and I think he's a great college basketball player. And I don't like to use this name because he's kind of the Wisconsin basketball pariah, but in my eyes, he's a Londo Tucker. Like he's big body, he's strong, he's athletic but not explosive. Obviously, a better shooter than Londo, but John in just a different way is an NBA tweener, right? He's not big enough to be a 3. He's not quick enough to be a 2. He shoots well enough to be a 2, but he doesn't shoot. Like, it's just so many things.
Yeah.
That doesn't take anything away from the guy being wildly talented because he is. So to your point, talking about NBA talent. Look, I got a bunch of people who disagree with me. I've said it since day one. Nolan Winter will be an NBA player. I just believe that.
John Lure.
Huh?
He's going to end up. John Lure had a 10-year NBA career. He was just never a star. I think Nolan Winter is going to spend a decade in the NBA.
Krabenhoff just said it. You know, if you go back and listen to what Krabenhoff says about him on Badger Connect, Krabenhoff talks about, like, look, when you look at all these like next level metrics that NBA scouts look like, Nolan Winter, according to Krabenhoff, was the only guy that had his second level metrics last year that isn't already in the NBA. And if we just take all that out of it, look at NBA basketball players and look at Nolan Winter. Anybody see a guy who looks like everything the NBA wants?
Yeah.
6'11", shoots the 3, pretty athletic. Anyhow, so you and I are on the same page there. I don't know what they do, but point being, when it comes to the money, I agree with you. The debate on the money isn't whether or not it matters. It matters. It's how much it matters. You have to spend it wisely. I do think you and I talked about this a little bit with that last week with football. Your coaches still have to elevate. You have to take what you have and make it better. I think even at Duke, they would tell you have to make it better. I mean, go back to when people talk about Phil Jackson and the old Bulls, right? And everybody's like, oh, it must be nice to have Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And guys will tell you, yeah, sometimes it's nice. Sometimes it's a real hassle. Let's face it. Our basketball team has the best player in the world, supposedly. Not going to get to the playoffs. So all that we agree with. Okay. So back to your conversation about this
grading. Yeah, we were there 20 minutes ago.
How long ago was that? Anyhow, I agree with you in general that it's different for different schools. I would tell you, in my world, I agree with you that really the only game that matters to me as far as a completed grade for Wisconsin is Thursday. And primarily, I think back often about what coaches talk about. Think about this with the Bills teams of the 80s, the Buffalo Bills teams of the 80s, right? Like, that arguably might have been the greatest 5-year run in the history of football, and it's demoted because, unfortunately for them, on 5 Sundays, 5 one-off games, they couldn't get over the hump. Anybody know where Scott Norwood is? Right. Anyhow, point being, I am a big believer in, like, if you're just going to judge a basketball team by this one game on this one day, you see it all the time. I mean, ask Purdue, right, losing as a 1 seed. Anybody can lose on any day. We're all starved for a Sweet 16 run. We would all like to play second weekend basketball. But in general, if you win on Thursday, I don't know how you would see this team as anything but successful. Because at that point in time, I think every team would tell you get to the round of 32 or certainly the round of 16. It's just house money. I don't care if you're Duke or Wisconsin. You get to a point where now you're just every game's a game, and you're just trying to get through to the next one, right?
Yeah. Let me pull back on one thing I said earlier, because I believe I said even if they lost on Thursday, their letter grade would start with a B. Let me pull back on that. If they lost on Thursday, I'm going to give them a full season grade on that final exam that's going to be a C, maybe C plus, because you can't lose Thursday.
You cannot.
And I know that that's a bit unfair. Some people are saying, no, it's more than fair. I get, but I tried to pride myself on understanding how competition works. And those guys on the other side are brimming with confidence and fear nobody. They haven't lost a game since January 14th. They were in the NCAA tournament a year ago. They can score the basketball, which is not a phrase I love, but they score a lot. So I think I understand competition. Wisconsin can lose. And the history shows 12s beating 5s a lot.
And let's be honest.
If you lose on Thursday, your letter grade for me, I know I said earlier would floor out at a B minus. For me, it would floor out at a C, C plus if they lost on Thursday. Anything after that, and they're certainly on a B, and then can move up to the A season-long grade getting to the second weekend.
I think it's also important to point out, I think in these games, neutral site favors 12 seeds, because I can just tell you, I don't know. Look, we all know Andy North will be there, but there aren't going to be that many Badger fans making a trip to Portland on Thursday. Okay?
Correct. Yeah.
If High Point is winning or that game is close, that is no longer neutral site. It is not a Wisconsin crowd. That is now a High Point crowd, because let's just be honest. Generally speaking, I've been to NCAA regionals. You go to a regional and it's a game you don't care about, who are you rooting for? right?
Yeah,
You're
and keep this. I brought this up yesterday. I know people don't think about this exclusively, but that game in Portland will tip at 10:50 local time before 11 o'clock in the morning. And I talked about this yesterday with Butch, and Brian said, "Yeah, but the people that are going to go, but they'll be late for that game because they buy session tickets." So they're there for 2 games in the morning session. And then if they bought the evening session, they go back for 2 more. But in the morning session, they bought 2 games. And they're going to be across the street having a breakfast sandwich or a pint or a Bloody Mary. Or if they're non-drinkers, they're just going to mill about before they go in. And the arena, if you've been, you've been.
Oh, yeah.
There's a buzz, but there's not energy. Here's the cool thing. Nick Boyd he's energy.
Yeah.
He brings energy. He would bring energy if you met him at the library to study for a test. He brings energy to everything he does. Mm-hmm. So I would hope that they would be a team that doesn't lack energy. But to your point, in neutral site, especially away, like in Milwaukee, it was different. It was neutral site. It wasn't. If they were in Chicago, it's neutral site. It's not. They're in Portland. There's a small contingent of Badger fans going there. There's a very small contingent of High Point fans going there. Everybody else that walks in, they will be fans of High Point because fans dig the upset. So as soon as High Point does something, you'll hear that buzz is going to grow and they'll have some home court advantage.
I agree wholeheartedly. One of the things is we're just kind of talking.
Stop agreeing.
This grading scale, I would tell you, I was thinking back to the 2000 Final Four team.
Yeah.
Right. That team was 18-14 headed into the tournament. So to your point, does anybody think the 2000 team's overall grade isn't an A? Right. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
That team's an A.
Yeah.
But it's an A because of the total body of work and what happened after selection Sunday, not what happened before. And because
if you ace the final exam, you're getting an A.
Well, let's be honest.
Regardless of whether you showed up during the semester, if you ace the final exam, you're getting an A.
Well, not only did you ace the final exam, Mike, let's just be clear. This is a little bit probably like I was in college. You were former Whitewater grads. We know what Whitewater is all about. This isn't just you ace the exam.
Hey, don't whitewater me. Don't whitewater me, UW Oshkosh.
Oh, sorry.
Wow. Did you whitewatered me? You son of a. I'll tell you what.
Yep. You want to just camp? Are we done? You want to just cut me off now? Anyhow. But point being, this is like you had a C or a D and you needed an A being near to get credit is what the 2000 team was. Okay. Yeah. Right. Like essentially you didn't just ace the exam, you aced the exam, and that's what got you credit for the class.
Right. Correct. 100%.
So I completely agree that it isn't every season can't be graded the same. I think we all agree with that.
Yeah.
But yes, I think we're in agreement after it sounds like I convinced you a little bit that you gotta win. You gotta win Thursday.
Win on Thursday. Yeah.
Gotta win Thursday.
And I don't think the players competitors are different. Mm-hmm. I don't think they feel added pressure that they have to win. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're ultra competitive. They hated losing to Michigan. And some of the fan base, me included, said, after the fact, might have been a good thing rather than the 4th game in 4 days. And then the NCAA turns around and sends you out to Portland for a Thursday morning game. And you worry about dead legs. So
one last thing on basketball, as long as we're talking about if a win is, a loss is maybe an okay thing, just kind of an odd question I've been milling on. As well as they've played the last couple of weeks, do you see Nolan Winter being back in the mix? Potentially taking, like, Bieliauskas has played really well. Rapp has played really well. And let's be honest, I think one of the reasons those guys have played really well is, look, it's just volume. I don't care who you are. I mean, they talk about this for running backs all the time, right? Like, you can't give a running back the ball 6 times. Okay.
Yeah.
You can't. And so I do wonder a little bit, and I'm not saying this is the reason why they would lose, and I'm the one who just got in here and said, look, I love Nolan Winter. I'm just talking about chemistry and mix. Like, is there you know what I mean? Is there a chance that for Bieliauskas and Rapp, there's a little bit of a mental reset that has to take place because they both know the minutes are going down, right?
Sure, yeah. And it depends on how healthy Nolan Winter is.
Right.
My hope
is still going down.
Yeah, correct. And that's
so then if you're those guys, are you pressing? Are you pressing because you have fewer opportunities potentially?
Butchie made that great point yesterday, Courtney, that you're dovetailing off of, and that is that the leash was longer. Those guys knew that on a mistake, they weren't just gonna, hey, all right, go get them. Nolan, get back in there. Garlock, it was your third. So I think Nolan's gonna play tomorrow, and minutes are gonna come down a little bit, or Thursday rather, but we don't know for sure. I mean, they don't tell us. Right. So maybe it's not there yet. All right, let me shift gears for one, because we got about 8 minutes or so left.
Okay.
And it goes in a hurry, doesn't it? There's one thing I want to preemptively go to off of the WBC that the other sports already employ. All right. So in the final 2 minutes of an NFL game and in overtime, all challenges are instituted from the booth, right? They all begin upstairs. The coach cannot throw the red flag. So Major League Baseball is going to go to the limited ABS challenge system this year. You get 2 challenges a game. You tap your head. The catcher, the pitcher, he won't do it. The catcher and the hitter, immediate tap of the head to dispute a ball strike call.
Okay.
Now, on the WBC semifinal, when the U.S. beat Puerto Rico, or the Dominican rather, the game-ending pitch is a ball and a half below the strike zone. In fact, I saw somebody's analytics said that pitch wasn't called for a strike 3 one time last year in Major League Baseball. All right. So it was that bad. It was called a strike. I would have not been upset if the booth would have reviewed it. Now, they don't have ABS in the WBC, so I'm changing the rules here. Okay. So I'm talking about ABS in Major League Baseball, and I think it will go here, Courtney. I would like in the 9th inning and extra innings for all ABS to be used on every ball strike call. Okay. So if one misses, they immediately buzz down and say, change that from a ball to a strike. Change that from a strike to a ball. Immediate, not with a tap of the head with the hitter or the catcher, but from upstairs. Where do you stand on what I would love to see on that rule?
So I would say this. I have real challenges with reviews on balls and strikes. And again, you're much more of a baseball person than I am, but I will tell you, there are things about baseball different than other sports that are part of the sport. Right? I mean, they just are. And I do think in baseball, more than the other sports, I have concerns about removing too much of the human element. Okay. So I just want to preface all this by saying, because look, we all grew up around baseball, guys arguing calls and strikes and managers and umpires, and we're chest to chest. There's a part of that I don't think any of us want to go away, and we don't want it to become so mechanical. That said, and I don't know how you get here with balls and strikes like you do with other things. I'm just going to take a quick detour here. One of the things that I hate about replay in football is when it takes 7 minutes. I really don't think the intent of replay is supposed to be, let's slow this down and go frame by frame by frame by frame, and let's see if there's a blade of grass.
So to me, it's always been, because here we'll agree again, which I don't, whatever. To me, replay was put into place to correct the egregious mistake, the Jim Joyce ruining of a perfect game at first base with Galarraga, which was an egregious miss.
Right.
Should not happen. The egregious miss, the Jerry Rice fumble against the Green Bay Packers the year before they put replay in, that would have been a correctable egregious. It's the reason you do it. Many of them aren't egregious. The called third strike to end the semifinal with the U.S. and the Dominican is an egregious ball strike mistake. I want to correct the egregious. I agree with you. I want to correct the one that is a millimeter outside. Yeah. However, I don't know how you go part way. It's like being sort of pregnant. I don't know how you do it.
I don't know with balls and strikes how you get there, but I'm with you. I'm not looking for us to put up this box and break it down and somebody zoom in and we can see this fuzzy little bit of right. I don't want that. Right. I don't think
by the way, even in the challenge system as it exists this year, the ABS challenge system, you're going to see a pitch missed by, and they'll show it on the screen, by 1 millimeter, and it will be changed from a strike to a ball because it missed It did not touch
Right.
the box. So you're going to see it.
And I don't think that's what fans are looking for. To your point, I think, frankly, you see it in all sports. You see it in hockey now, where they review offsides and they're looking down the line, and we're trying to determine this game.
Right.
Like, that's not what I'm looking for. I don't think it's what any fan's looking for. Matter of fact, I've been arguing in the NFL, they should make that dang monitor go black after like 60 seconds. Like, if they're looking into that box and in a minute of looking at replays, they can't say we screwed it up, then let's just go. Like, honestly, let's just, it's part of the game. So I don't know how you get there either. I would agree with you. We've all seen, look, I watch a lot of Brewers baseball. It's not regular season. Obviously, it doesn't have the same impact of what you're talking about. We've all seen the ball and strike call where you go, excuse me? Like, almost like, look, we all do this in our daily lives. I'm sure you do it in your job. I do it in my job. It's almost like for a second, was he thinking about dinner or something? His wife's like, almost like it's so bad. You almost wonder, did he just have to or maybe he's all the way back to the people who
Angel Hernandez
Naked Gun movies, right? He was like, look at it this way, and now he just got to go straight. We've all seen those, but I'm with you. I don't know how we build in a margin of error, but use replay. So I guess this is a really long way of getting my answer of saying, I personally would rather live with the egregious mistakes than let's get into a world on balls and strikes where we're changing these. That would be because, and I've said this for a long time, and I think, unfortunately, you'll agree with this, but I think most people do when they really kind of take their I hate the officials hat off, they don't really miss that many. No, it's amazing when I watch all sports and I'm watching it in live action. I'm like, oh, that's a terrible call. And then they go back and show the replay, and I have to go to myself, oh, well, maybe it wasn't that terrible.
I'm one of the rare guys who still goes back to the 1982 World Series, and I think it was Game 6 when Pete Ladd had a strike 3 and they didn't give it to him, and then he gave up a hit that allowed the Cardinals to come back and win that game. I still live on that, and what is that? 82, that is 44 years ago, or is it 54 years ago? Whatever. It's 44 years ago. I still go back to that. You think that a Dominican fan is ever going to forget that call that ended the World Baseball Classic semifinal? And it is an egregious miss.
It is. But again, I'm just taking if I have to pick one or the other, if I have to live with some egregious and not have to suffer through and remove the human element on the other side, I'll live with the handful of egregious because there just aren't that many.
Yeah.
There just aren't. And I say that having just watched a lot of college basketball where I feel like there's 18 of them a game. So
are you in on the I Love Mondays tournament challenge? Did you get the link? And it's a CBS bracket that I linked out Sunday night.
I have not gotten in yet, but I haven't done any of my brackets yet.
Okay, but you're going to. Right. I mean, people are going to gauge how they do against me and you. And for anybody that remembers Jeff Vilker, they might gauge how they do against him. Kari's going to do one.
Do you traditionally do well?
Do I? Yes, because I traditionally live in the world of chalk.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, I mean, I've already filled mine out. So people who go in are going to see it. But I believe I have 3 ones in the Final Four, maybe 4. I might have all 4. I'd have to look. I have to call it back up.
So, this is going way back to old ESPN days. Are you a one bracket guy if you enter more than one pool, or are you?
No, I don't. I don't just. I don't just copy and paste. So if I get in multiple pools, I'll pick it a little bit differently, but I won't put multiple pools into the same deal. Yeah. I will tell you. Here's my Final Four. Okay. I have a number 1 seed Duke beating a 3 seed Illinois, and I have a number 1 Arizona beating a 1 seed Michigan. So I do have 2 Big Ten teams in my Final Four, but the only non-number 1 seed is Illinois. I have Duke, Illinois, Arizona, Michigan, and I have Arizona winning the national championship over Duke. So there, I've given it up. I've given up.
Yeah.
And I do, just for those who are wondering about, well, how does Mike have Wisconsin? Mike has Wisconsin beating High Point and beating Arkansas and losing to Arizona, which would be a turnabout as fair play because Wisconsin knocked Arizona out in back-to-back Elite Eights when they went to back-to-back Final Fours.
So I would say this. I am as some used to call it, I am a bracket of integrity person. I will make a bracket.
And then that
however many pools I get into, that'll be the bracket they get.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I've always preferred it that way. And much like when we were talking about the Wisconsin Michigan game before it started, I like to stand firm in my conviction of how I choose things. You seem to be a little wishy-washy here. I understand that.
Whatever. Okay.
I do like to make an analysis, make a bracket, and if I picked it right, be able to say, oh yeah, like this was the bracket. These were the picks I made, so that's how I'll go about it. I will tell you, people always ask my brothers who, my brother Gil. I think you've played some golf with him. Gil always asks me. He says, "So what do you do?" Because everybody knows I'm such a Wisconsin. He's like, "So you just run Wisconsin all the way through to win it, and then you just pick everything around it?" And I'm like,
right.
No, I don't do that. Like, I'd love to say that, but when I pick the bracket, I don't. I will tell you, like, I've already looked through that. To your point, I will also have Wisconsin in the Sweet 16. I don't know how much further they go than that. I will tell you, not Duke, but when I go back and I look at the 1 seeds, I'm going to tell you right now, I actually have Michigan. I'm actually going to have Michigan and Arizona make earlier exits. I don't know how early.
All right.
Look, we've all seen Michigan. We've all played them, and I'm not just saying that. I'm not saying I don't think Wisconsin's good. I think they are a beatable. They're a beatable basketball team.
Well, dude, if you have Arizona going out earlier, then you should have Wisconsin in your Elite Eight and maybe your Final Four.
Hey. I don't want to give everything away yet.
Oh, okay. I see. I gave all the presents under my tree have been opened.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I like people. You got to buy me dinner.
Okay.
You want?
All right.
Yeah.
We'll think about that.
So I do see that. I look, the team that I think everybody. Here we go. I would say, I think the team that everybody keeps sleeping. It's funny. I thought about it last night. Like, how we keep sleeping on UConn every single year.
Yeah.
How UConn just keeps winning natties and never a 1 seed and never a better. So I think you have teams like UConn. Look, Florida, I think, might be one of the most underrated. Look at Florida's a 1 seed again, and nobody talks about Florida. Then all of a sudden, Selection Sunday shows up and they're a 1 seed.
Right.
I think Purdue's an early exit because I've just seen it. I love Iowa State because my son went there. I love a lot of things about that program. They don't seem to perform that well. So I definitely think, again, this year there's some folks at the top who are going to make early exits. Yeah. I think Illinois is peaking. I think they make a run.
Yeah, it's really interesting because in my Elite Eight, I have a 1 versus a 2, a 1 versus a 3, without giving everything away, and a 1 versus a 2, and a 1 versus a 3. I don't have anybody higher than a 3 seed or lower than a 3 seed in the Elite Eight. And by the way, just quickly on Jamie, couldn't disagree more with living with egregious officiating mistakes. As Mike said, Jerry Rice fumble, enough said. So somebody on my side to end the deal.
And I just want to clarify. Hey, can I clarify though? I'm just saying, if the choice is between living with egregious mistakes and spending 6 minutes looking at blades of grass, that's how I would prefer it. I'm not advocating for no replay and we just live with it. I just want to be clear on what I'm saying. That's
I got you.
But you're right. They agree with you, not me. They should. You're the host. I just do this.
You don't have to. Just because I'm the host doesn't mean they have to agree with me. Listen, Super Fan Tuesday is, to me, one of the most fun days of the week. Courtney, I appreciate you doing it both last week and this. Vilker owes you something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
is he good at paying
arrangements? We'll make arrangements.
Is he good at paying off stuff that he should pay up on?
Not normally.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
not usually, but I mean, he hasn't owed me things that often.
Okay. All right.
So we'll see,
I don't know what happens next Tuesday yet, so we'll figure it out. But I appreciate you. This is a lot of fun. The hour goes in a flash, and we're well past it now. So get out of here and get to your day job. Appreciate you, Courtney. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Mike. Appreciate you too. Have a good week and on Wisconsin.
There we go. Courtney Corning joining us on our Super Fan Tuesday. All right. Some things to clean up on the way out of the shop here today. And I do want to, again, give proper credit to those who make this podcast possible. I love doing it. It had been 6 months until 2 Mondays ago. It had been 6 months since I've been doing my own deal on a podcast or the radio. And this, let's admit it, this isn't much different than the radio. It's just, it's mine. But in order to do that, I had to find I had to find companies that were willing to bet on me and to trust me and to work this partnership. We're going to add another significant sponsor here in the next couple of weeks that I'm holding on to, and I think we'll start in April. But they are going to be partners in what we do. But I want to say thank you to our presenting sponsors, M3 Insurance, proud to serve clients across the country with world-class expertise and individual attention tailored to your business. No compromises, no matter what. With M3 Insurance, you get it all. Go to m3ins.com. Also presented by the Neuroscience Group, excellence in brain, spine, and pain care. Back pain holding you back? At Neuroscience Group, their spine specialists offer personalized care from therapy to advanced surgical options so you can get back to doing what you love. Neuroscience Group, we've got your back. Go to neurosciencegroup.com. Also presented by Potawatomi Sportsbook and Casino. What better place is there this week? How about being there for that WBC championship game tonight between the U.S. and Venezuela? That will be special. And then obviously the tournament games going on in Dayton on the other screen, a Bucks home game on another. I mean, come on. Potawatomi is the place to be. For all the sports bettors, head to Potawatomi Sportsbook in Milwaukee for an unmatched sports betting experience. And by our friends at Habish and Rotier. This was my original, the initial, the first, and I appreciate them so greatly. 13 locations to ensure you get a hometown attorney who understands your life and the impacts of your injury and is personally committed to your recovery. So all of those part and parcel to what we do. Tomorrow's an OG Wednesday. Now, OG, I mean, originally it stands for Original Gangster. You know, last week I went Original Gangster, old guy, original guy, Tom Oates. I'm not going to tell you today who my OG is tomorrow. Still working out some final details. And then on Thursday, Vinny Rottino will jump into the chair, and that will take you pretty close up to Badger tip-off. So we got that going on Thursday. And then an NG Friday, new gangster, new guy. All of that going on yet this week. All right, so a big fun Tuesday, Superfan Tuesday is now in the books. And I appreciate you guys being here. We will do it again tomorrow at 10 o'clock. I Love Mondays with Mike Heller.